Knock out a pen. Oh, yeah, no, that'd be good. Oh, no, I think it's good. Because, I mean, especially for what it is. I mean, it's, we want the community to know, so.
Okay, everyone. 7 o'clock, it's Tuesday night in Gardner, Kansas, but we're going to have a city council meeting tonight anyway. So we're going to call it to order, invite everybody to stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. No public hearings this evening, no presentations this evening, so the first item on the agenda is public comments. Members of the public are welcome to use this time to make comments about city matters or items on the agenda that are not part of a public hearing. So if you would like to make a public comment, please step to the microphone, state your name and address for the record, and be heard. Gary, it's good to see you this evening. I'm going to remind anybody that's planning on making public comments this evening that we try and limit them to 5 minutes at a shot, so.
Mayor, members of the board, my name is Gary Carson. I live at 112 Brittany Court. I only have one comment, and it's in the form of a question. On your screens, you'll see an email that was sent out on Saturday, July 9th to Jeannie Kuntz. And I'm just wondering when I'm going to receive an answer to these questions.
Okay. Well, Gary, I know you've been in enough of these meetings. You know that public comments are your opportunity to address issues to us. We don't generally do a back and forth with people from the podium.
If I don't address this issue here, I won't get an answer. That's why I'm here.
Okay, well, that's, we can bring this back up during council updates, which is what we would normally do. And Jeannie, we can pull this back up at council update time. And I can assure you, we always virtually always address any kind of concern that somebody has in the public during council updates, but we do the business of the city first.
Good. I'll look forward to the follow-up. Thank you. Have a great evening, everyone.
You too, sir.
Good evening. Ray Durr, 241 Peachtree Lane, Gardner, Kansas. I'd just like to raise one thing I noticed for the billing cycle for the airport. They send the bills out not quite the same as they do the other utility bills. Like they send them out like a week in advance, and it's due on the 1st. I thought maybe it should have been a 2-week, 3-week type thing like they do for the electric bill. That's it.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you, Ray. Any other comments this evening? With no one coming forward, we're going to move on to the consent agenda. Is there a council member that would like to remove an item from the consent agenda? If not, I would entertain a motion.
So moved. Second.
Motion Harrison, second Shute, that we approve the consent agenda. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstention? The consent agenda passes. Committee recommendations. Item number 1, consider authorizing the city administrator to execute a supply contract with DXP Super Center in the amount of $88,026 for the replacement of 2 submersible pumps at the Raw Water Pump Project, CIP, project number WA 1602. Gonzalo Garcia, good evening, sir.
Good evening, City Mayor, council members. On August 4th, 2016, the Utility Advisory Commission approved a recommendation to the City Council to award a supply contract to DXP Super Center in the amount of $88,026 for the replacement of 2 submersible pumps as part of the raw water pump project, CIP project, WA 1602. I'd like to give you a little background on this project. Hillsdale Water Treatment Plant was originally built in 1998, and it was expanded to 4 million gallons in 2006, with accommodations for expansion to 6 million gallons per day. The city currently receives all the water from Hillsdale Lake, which is roughly 2.5 miles from Hillsdale Water Plant. The raw water pumps consist of 3 125 horsepower Fairbanks Moore submersible pumps located at the raw water intake at Hillsdale Lake. The 2 pumps were installed in 1998 and the third one in 2006. As identified in 2015 water utility assessment, these pumps are reaching their end of their expected life. The pump have been rebuilt in the past, and they are at the stage of becoming a continual maintenance issue to the staff of the Hillsdale staff. Every summer, one of the pumps go out of service, usually before the peak season. We have repaired the pumps in several occasions in the past, and they're not reliable. The current CIP consists of replacing the submersible water pumps, installing a variable speed drive, a water level indication, and a hose upgrade. There's a breakdown of the various components of this project. Having said this, the staff recommends replacing existing raw water pumps with the Fairbanks and Moore. The reason we want to go with the Fairbanks and Moore pump, they're OEM, so there will be no modification to existing structures or guide rails. So we can use the existing installation to put the new pumps. DXP Supercenter is a single source distributor for Fairbanks pumps here in Kansas. So we have reviewed the proposals and recommend awarding supply contract DXP Supercenter in the amount of $88,026 for replacing two of the 3 submersible pumps.
Okay. Thanks, Gons. We'll open the floor for public comments if anyone would like to make a public comment regarding new business committee item number 1. With no one coming forward, council, questions for Gons or other staff regarding committee item 1?
I just had a quick question, Gons, and that was about this was not budgeted for this year, correct? This was additional maintenance that we'd identified with our assessment?
This is a CIP, and that was identified in the assessment done by Burns and Mack last year.
Okay. So I'm looking here at the actual notes from the UAC. Didn't seem like there were a lot of questions asked at that particular meeting. I'm looking at a significant amount of contingency costs. Why would that be the case? Either $235,000 in contingency.
When Burns and Mack identified this item, they were talking about installing vertical pumps, which is you have a motor and a shaft that goes all the way close to, probably close to 80 feet.
Yeah. So
if we have gone with that recommendation, the cost would have been around the $600,000.
Okay.
After careful evaluation and consideration, we decided that we were better off staying with the same design and make improvement to the controls to get more reliable operation of the pumps.
So really what we're looking at here is, although we've budgeted 610, we're really looking at more like...
My estimate will be hopefully below $200,000.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
not, I would entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion, Shute, second, Melton, that we authorize the city administrator to award a supply contract to DXP Supercenter in the amount of $88,026, not including freight, installation, or taxes, for 2 new submersible pumps as part of the raw water pump project, CIP project number WA 1602. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstention? Committee item number 1 passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gons. New business item number 1, consider the extension of the Board of Zoning Appeals appointment process. At the July 18, 2016 City Council meeting, Council appointed 2 of the 3 open positions on the Board of Zoning Appeals. The Council extended the appointment process for the 3rd position until August 17, 2016, with a recommendation for appointment at the September 6, 2016 meeting. Staff received 1 applicant for the position. The applicant is not a resident of the city and therefore cannot serve on the Board of Zoning Appeals. The interview team recommends extending the appointment process 30 days as provided for in the governing body rules of procedure for the 3rd position. The vacancy has been advertised in the newspaper of record on August 17th and 24th, as well as on the city's website and social media platforms. The deadline for applications was August 31st, 2016. If we want to continue to follow the process that we have identified through the governing body rules of procedure, we do have to extend the amount of time. On the plus side, the 4 current members of the Board of Zoning Appeals is sufficient to meet quorum requirements, and I don't believe that they've actually convened since, I don't know, October of last year, I believe. So, well, we don't want to leave the seat open too long. We do want to fill it following the procedures we've established. So, that's the end of the presentation. If there's anybody present that would like to make public comment regarding new business item number 1, with no one coming forward, questions or comments regarding new business item number 1? Okay. If not, I will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion winner, second Melton, that we approve the extension of the Board of Zoning Appeals appointment process for 30 days until October 5th, 2016, with consideration of appointment on the October 3rd, 2016 City Council agenda. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstention? New business item number 1 passes. New business item number 2, consider appointing voting and alternate delegates for the 2016 League of Kansas Municipalities Conference. So, we can appoint up to 4 council members as voting delegates and up to 4 council members as voting alternates at the 2016 League of Municipalities Conference. That's all we've got for presentation, so if there's any public comment regarding this. I can't believe people aren't leaping to their feet. Who's planning on attending the conference, and would you like to be a voting delegate?
I'll just say right up front, I'm actually working out of town that weekend, so I'm out.
And I'm out of town as well.
Well, you guys are going to be busy.
Yeah. Anyone else?
I've attended every single conference since becoming a member of the governing body. I guess that means I'm up for it, aren't I?
There we go. Shoot.
I will say this Saturday's gonna be kind of tight for me, but I'll be able to make the Sunday, Monday
I think they vote on Mondays, right?
Yeah, they vote
And we vote
on
on
Monday.
Mondays, yeah.
Yeah. Anyone else? Gordon Began.
I'd like to nominate Steve
Come on, Lee.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I would entertain a motion to appoint Councilmember Shute as a voting delegate for the 2016.
So moved.
Second.
Motion Moore, second Harrison, that we appoint Councilmember Steve Shute as voting delegate number 1
And only.
and only for the 2016 League of Kansas Municipalities Conference.
I'll take one for the team.
All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed,
I'm abstaining.
any abstention? The new business item number 2 passes 4-1.
Oh, 4011.
So, that brings us to the end of new business. We do have, actually a couple of, and it's not, I don't see it on my copy of the, agenda, but we are going to have 2 separate, executive sessions this evening.
Mhm.
Which one do you have up there first?
I have executive session number 1.
Okay, for attorney-client?
Correct.
Okay, so, I understand we need about 20 minutes, is that correct, Ryan? Ryan?
Probably do it in 15. But if you're breaking for executive session, you can do a motion, for both of them rather than having to come back, and just set the time.
Okay,
That's fine.
so,
You do it one for one?
so,
How much time total?
You did, the motion would just
30
say
minutes.
the
30
two
minutes?
purposes for the executive session and the amount of the duration.
Got it.
okay. Yeah.
All right.
If you'd like to,
I'll need to make both motions.
okay.
All right. I'd like to make a motion to consider holding an executive session, 1, to discuss matters covered under attorney-client privilege related to pending litigation, and the second portion of that executive session to discuss personnel matters relating to non-elected personnel, specifically city administrators' goals. Recess beginning at 7:16 p.m., returning to regular session at 7:46 p.m.
Second.
Motion Shute, second Moore, that we recess into executive session, returning at 7:46. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? We'll stand in recess. I guess it really depends on the clock. I'm sure it says 7:46 on somebody's watch.
A couple of seconds on mine.
Yep, mine.
Up 7:46.
I would entertain a motion to resume regular
So moved.
session.
Second.
Motion Harrison, second Shute, that we resume regular session. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? We're back in regular session. We'll move on to council updates. And we'll go ahead and get started with, Gonzalo Garcia. You have anything for us, Gonz?
Yeah, I'm happy to inform that Keel Creek Water Resource Recovery Facility was awarded Plant of the Year. This is the second consecutive year they got that award.
Hey. That's why Jody was here.
That's fantastic. That's great news, Gonz.
Yeah, thank
And I
you.
think that's the 6th time they won the award in 10 years, so
Yeah,
that's
well,
pretty
we
good.
need to, we need to get some of that staff over here for a council meeting and a award celebration. That's just great news. Thanks for sharing it.
Thank you.
Scott Gary.
I don't have anything at this time.
Larry?
Well, I would like to know if you're going to speak on Orchland, sir.
Orson?
The announcement for their ribbon cutting. Okay. Orchland will be having a ribbon cutting September 16th, at 9:30, somewhere in the front parking lot. I'm not sure of the exact location, but it should be in that general area. So the general public, of course, is invited, and of course, as many of you can make it, they would love to see you there. So come on down, and they'll have a good time for you.
Fantastic. Thanks, Larry. Brian?
Just a project update. Center Street, the water line is nearing completion. It's been a long process. We've run into a number of issues with the water line, but one of them being weather. We've had a lot of rain. One of the other things we found out when we were doing the water line, we've also been working on the design of the street. The street design, as well as the acquisition of easements needed for the reconstruction of the street, have taken significantly longer than we had anticipated. So the city is looking at, we've worked with Johnson County, the CARS folks, to see if it was possible to do the street in early 2017 and maintain the CARS funding. They said yes. And so what we're looking for is actually doing a 2017 early bid on that street. And what that does, though, is it leaves some people, kind of the yards torn up, driveways torn up over the wintertime, and we'll work with the contractor to get that reestablished before the winter. So, and the 2016 street project is going fine, except for the weather.
Very good. Chief, you have anything? No. Jeannie? Okay. Laura? Ryan?
No.
Cheryl?
I do not.
Okay. Let's go ahead and we'll move on to council having anything for staff. And I'll just jump in real quick. I'll reserve the right to come back in a minute. But, Jeannie, can we throw up Gary Carson's email? You know, if everybody could, if you haven't seen it already, could you take a moment and read the email? Everybody can let me know when you're done. Okay. Jeannie, I know that you've had much more correspondence with Mr. Carson about ADA issues. I know that the police department, whether it's Lieutenant Belcher, Sergeant Benz, have as well. Brian, your folks all have had multiple conversations with them. Jeannie, can you just maybe explain where we are since the receipt of this email and perhaps shed a little light at what Mr. Carson's trying to get at there?
Since this time, I've received numerous requests from Mr. Carson and have responded to requests for specific issues and specific questions. The process has been to explain to him for filing requests for reasonable accommodation and for filing grievances, and he has utilized this process, and determinations have been provided to him on those grievances. And the city attorney has confirmed this process to go through the ADA coordinator to file requests and grievances.
And I would add that I did write a letter to Mr. Carson laying out expressly and explicitly what the statutory and regulatory duties of the ADA coordinator were. So he's got that information. It's been provided to him.
Okay.
I know he's not here. I guess my question is, and I didn't get, is he bringing this to light because he feels like he didn't get a response, or is he bringing this to light because he doesn't like the response and believes there should be discussion around this particular responsibility? I mean, that was my...
I mean, yeah, let me try to just, shed some light on this, because, as ex officio member of the, ADA committee, I've been receiving all of the correspondences between Mr. Carson, the city attorney, the ADA coordinator, and Brian. And, I think there's an increased amount of frustration on the part of Gary, Mr. Carson, that, he's not receiving sufficient information in a timely manner. What he's doing is he's comparing the response from this city to response he's gotten from the library, the county, from the school district, from the fire district. And he's saying, all these entities here are being much more responsive and much more complete with the correspondence, and he's not getting that from the city. That's what he has told me directly, and there is a frustration that's there, and it's manifesting itself in correspondence. Here's what I can say from the perspective of the ADA Advisory Committee. I think that we've only met 6 times, so there's that. The second thing is there is a lot of initiatives underway right now. One of them is the assessment, the self-assessment process that the council had agreed to working through and funding. That is underway now, and I believe that Mr. Carson has had discussions with the contractor that's doing that work. So he knows there's initiatives underway with that. I think that part of some of the biggest issues he has is that, he's asking for things like, vegetation cleanup on ramps, ADA ramps with truncated domes, and there's some what he perceives as resistance from city staff in terms of getting that resolved. That's a clear and present condition that people with disabilities have when they're, trying to navigate sidewalks. They have vegetation in the sidewalks. It makes it difficult for them to be able to utilize those sidewalks. Things like that. And so that's I think where the root of the frustration is. And that's all I have, but I think that might shed some light on what we're talking about.
I've got a question for you, Steve. If you've been
Sure.
clued in on many of these emails.
I've been CC'd on all of them, I think.
Well, must be your turn.
It is.
I've been, previously.
And I don't mind it. I don't mind it.
I previously had been.
Yeah.
You see the questions he's asking, or whether it's of Brian, whether it's of Jeannie, whether it's of Ryan. That's the impression I'm under is that they are responding. They're responding in as timely a manner as they can. I understand that sometimes he doesn't like the responses that he receives. Do you feel like the city staff's not being responsive to him?
I think that given the limitations that we have right now with our staff responsibilities, I think that these are reasonable responses. Now, can we go further and spend more money and bring in a full-time ADA coordinator to make things more responsive? Sure, but that's a decision on the part of the governing body. But right now, Jeannie's tasked with providing those responses. She is also city clerk. So, and from what I understand, almost every jurisdiction in Johnson County, you have people that are fulfilling multiple roles that are in that position of ADA coordinator.
Yeah, Jeannie, you looked into that. Was there any municipality in the metro area that was that had a full-time ADA coordinator?
At the municipalities I looked at, there were none.
Even if we had a full-time ADA coordinator, a lot of these things that are in this email wouldn't be resolved unless this council decided to, this governing body decided to spend a whole lot of money to resolve a lot of issues right away, so.
No, removing vegetation.
I mean, well, that's one of, you know, I didn't get all the emails, but I'm just saying that, you know, a lot of these problems, like, have any of all potential liabilities, you know, with council, as far as I'm concerned, I don't need to know all of those things from Jeannie, because when it's a problem, they're gonna come to us anyway and tell us.
Some of it's a code enforcement issue, and I know that Chief Pruitt was about to jump in the microphone,
Yeah.
so I want to give him an opportunity.
And we did get a list of those locations, and we had to send out letters and go through a process.
Right.
We got contacted by several people that got the letters that indicated they weren't aware it was their responsibility to do it. So a lot of that should have been cleaned up, and then we had to follow up with the people that did not respond, to make sure they did. I mean, it's just a process, it just takes a little time.
Right, and I
So,
think
but-
from my perspective, government doesn't do anything quick except remove your rights, so.
So, did we answer,
Not here.
did we answer the gentleman's question, though? He wants to know if it's the city, if it's her duty to notify the city council?
Well, and that, there's the rub. We've got the city administrator, the top non-elected official, somebody that we pay to keep the trains running on time and not just respond to every potential violation of the ADA. Is it our expectation that Cheryl is going to let each and every one of the members of the governing body know every time somebody says there's a potential violation of the ADA?
I think that,
And personal opinion,
yeah,
for myself and myself only, is no. And honestly, Cheryl probably is not going to be involved even at that level unless it gets to unless there's a potential violation that would lead to, you know, an actionable position on the
We have a
complainant's
sinkhole
part.
that we can't, somebody gets swallowed up.
here's what I will say. If there's a grievance filed, there's ADA protocols that govern that process. If a grievance has been filed, I think that a notification should be put out to the city council, at least letting us know that a grievance has been filed. Because that's the start of the process, of the legal process around ADA. And I think that that's important, that we are aware of that. But any notification from, you know, every citizen regarding a potential violation, I don't think that's needed. I think that the grievance process is where that starts. If we get a grievance, I think we need to know about it.
So I did want to note that Jeannie forwarded this email along with many others that Mr. Carson sent, and I did do a fairly detailed letter back on July 27th, and because he's asking in here what the duties of the ADA coordinator were and are, and he'd also raised numerous other issues, including sidewalks and all kinds of things. And I went through in the letter and, you know, probably half of a single-space page and laid out every statutory and regulatory duty that the ADA coordinator has. So that information has been given to him as to what Jeannie was to do and what his process was, if he had concerns, was to go to the ADA coordinator and file a grievance if he believes it's been, if it's a matter that needs to be resolved. So, he's asking in this email about process and statutory and regulatory process, and I laid all that out for him.
So the second paragraph in this communication is taken care of then. I mean, if you've sent him an official letter saying, this is the process, these are the duties. So the first part of this communication is basically asking if it's the city administrator's duty or duty of other city personnel to address every potential violation. I don't even know what potential violation means.
That's an ambiguous term.
And address, I don't know what address means. I mean, if somebody sends you, if somebody calls you on the phone and says, hey, there's a potential violation, and you say, okay, thanks, click, you've addressed it, right?
Well, I think the answer to the first paragraph's, fairly obvious in that the city has a statutory obligation to comply with the ADA and public accommodation. Cheryl doesn't individually, it's the city as a whole that has that duty. And so, he's asking about, he wants a specific designated member of city staff to address that.
Correct.
And
but what does address mean?
No, I understand.
Where do we go with that? Is there a specific thing? We need a specific, I guess, a very specific thing that needs request here. Does it need to have any additional process built into this, or have we taken care of it?
Well, but it's also, the second sentence in there, this should include any and all past or present communications. We've been weighted down with communications from Mr. Carson for a couple of years now, and
My inbox has 15 correspondences from Gary just today.
So I'm not at all trying to make light.
Oh, no.
Some of this is ADA compliance. It's meant to be reasonable. You've got to be able to make reasonable accommodation. If Gary's making 15 different requests on a single day, what are the chances that everything that he's addressing is probably reasonable? And there's things that have been brought to our attention, and Brian and Public Works staff has done great work in clearing some things up. The government's a slow-moving beast, and things didn't get fixed in the time frame that he would have liked in some cases, but generally it's gotten fixed, and we dedicated our community development block grant money to fixing ADA issues just a couple of years ago. So we've really gone and made above and beyond a good faith effort, I think, as an organization. Wouldn't you say so, Ryan?
Yeah, I think from what I've seen, the communications between, you're right, it takes time to address these matters, and Brian and Jeannie have ultimately been, in my opinion, responsive to Mr. Carson's request. It isn't instantaneous, which is sometimes, I think he would like a more rapid response, but some of these things take time to consider and figure out the answer and provide a response. So.
And the other part of this that's not being talked about is that, yes, so there have been years of correspondence with Gary, between him and various members of staff and governing body, but none of it has been officially legal correspondence that pertain to specific incidents of ADA violations.
Well,
and that's until very recently. And so he's utilized the process. He's, put in grievances. He's put in a request for accommodation, which are official documents that go to that. And there is a prescribed protocol for responding to those requests, not only, internally, but also there's some reasonable time frames in there to be able to provide those responses. So I think that from that perspective, the city is fulfilling its obligations. I think the concern that he's had, and he's had this all along, is that why are we only doing what we're obligated to do, and why aren't we doing more than what's obligated to? And so...
Well, and to me, that's, so I feel like, and I've had numerous correspondence with Mr. Carson, and I get his frustration on some things, and things don't move quick enough.
Yep.
But I also, I think city staff takes the blunt of a lot of this, and they're doing what they're required to do. So if there's any additional, above and beyond, anything that we want that's more than what the statute dictates, then it's this governing body's
Mhm.
responsibility to
Yep.
make that recommendation. And so that's the part where I'm not, I think that's my frustration with this particular topic, because I'm not really sure what the issue is and what the real ask is. I mean, I kind of read this last paragraph to maybe lead to, he believes that we should be notified of everything. Well, I mean, if we want to have that discussion and make that change, that's for us to make. That's not for the city administrator. It's not for
Right.
Jeannie to make. I mean,
It's
so,
a decision for us.
right.
It's a policy decision.
And I don't know, Steve, if it's something like the ADA. I mean,
That's why the
he
ADA
has-
committee exists.
Right, he has,
Yes.
the whole role of the ADA coordinator, the title of the ADA coordinator, the responsibilities has been a trouble spot for him, for a while.
I agree.
And so, I don't know if there's some further discussion that can happen to make a recommendation or what have you, but, I mean, I think the key thing is, if there are things, if Brian feels that legally we're meeting what we need to meet, then it's up to us to decide and make a commitment whether we want to go above and beyond that.
Well, and let me real quick, we established a position for ADA coordinator a couple of years ago. We let Mr. Carson know who the ADA coordinator was and who, and what the function of the position was supposed to be. Initially, Mr. Carson wouldn't go through the ADA coordinator because he didn't feel like she was qualified to be ADA coordinator.
Yep.
Never mind the fact that she's a certified city clerk, she's got a master's degree in public administration, and she's done extremely good work for this governing body in this city. But she's had to work behind the scenes with Brian and Gary, while he was, Mr. Carson, while not following the proper procedure. And only recently has he really started following the proper procedure. So, I think, number one, now that he is following the proper procedure, we need to give some time to let that work. And number two, I mean, when we were, forming the advisory committees that we put into place over the course of the past year, was something that I'd been interested in doing since 2013. And when I was working, trying to figure out what kind of committees we ought to have, I mean, one of the things I thought about was the ongoing struggles that we were having with ADA compliance, at least in Mr. Carson's eyes, but to move the city forward smartly. Honestly, I looked at cities all across the metro area and specifically Johnson County. The only other city in Johnson County that I saw that had an ADA advisory committee was Leawood. But I still suggested that we do it, and council approved forming this committee unanimously. And while we've only had 6 meetings, that's 6 more meetings than just about every other city in Johnson County, much less the state of Kansas.
I think we,
I think we're going, I think we are going above and beyond. And I think that's just us as an organization. That doesn't even speak to what Jeannie has done individually and what Brian has done individually and their staffs have done. Well, and Ryan Tank for that matter, because Brian's had to interject on more than one occasion about it. I feel his frustration, and I want us to be the kind of city that leads the way in accessibility
combination
for everyone. But I think that we're well on our way to doing that, and I'm sorry that Mr. Carson doesn't feel like it's happening fast enough to suit his desires.
For my part, I'm concerned about actual violations. I couldn't care less about somebody's idea of a potential violation. I want to know if we're going to come up with some policy or some procedure for us to have notification from the city administrator. I want to know, I want to see it in the form of a list. These are the current ADA violations that we are aware of and that we are we have plans to fix.
And, see, and that's the other thing is that when I said actionable earlier, it's like, you know, potential, that's potential. We've got an ADA coordinator, she gives the information to, the appropriate staff member. They make a determination whether or not it's even a violation. And if it is, I mean, a lot of this stuff's gonna fall under, you know, signature authority for a department director or the city administrator. These are things that don't have to come before council all the time. Now,
Small enough, yeah.
if an issue comes up that there's disagreement on and that we're worried that it could become legally actionable, I think that is the appropriate time to fill council in, probably in an executive session, or, and in the meantime, Steve's ADA Advisory Committee can be working towards making us the most accessible city in Johnson County, if not the state.
That's where I'm at, because Steve's committee is really no different than Lee's is for the streets and how everything got selected. Hey, look, we should do these kind of first and move through the process.
Correct.
To be perfectly honest, I truly wish Mr. Carson would have accepted your ADA committee, you know, his appointment.
I think he may still do that. But the point I'm gonna make, and I'll stop, is that the ADA committee can't do anything, all right, right now, because we don't have a self-assessment completed. The assessment process starts the whole remedy, you know, ball rolling. We have started the process of assessing our facilities, our parks, our buildings, our trail system, you know, those things. I know the sidewalk committee has already done that with the sidewalks and the streets and the crosswalks. But as you said, Chris, it takes time. It takes time to get this done, and we just started our assessment process. We're looking to wrap that up sometime in October, November, and at that point, we can actually bring recommendations to the council, which is the whole point of our committee, to be able to have votes and get those things addressed.
Well, if I remember correctly, even this email was received after the ADA committee, advisory committee, and city staff had made the decision to recommend the self-assessment, ADA self-assessment, so that we're currently undergoing.
And we actually brought on outside resources to provide that recommendation. So yes, I think we're in the right direction. It's just that it's gonna take communication. We're gonna have to have ongoing communication. And I don't mind getting 15 emails a day and keeping apprised of this. And I encourage folks that are on this dais and people that are watching on YouTube to come to our meetings and bring your concerns. And if we're not being actionable to you or responsive enough, we need to know that so that we can incorporate that into our action plan.
Yeah.
And our next meeting is going to be on, hey, I've got to make a plug now. Next meeting is going to be the 21st.
Not really your...
21st of September.
21st of September.
All right.
ADA Advisory Committee, come on out, everybody.
Yep.
Anybody else on this item? For everybody that's been working with ADA issues, Jeannie, Brian, your staffs, Chief over at the PD, thanks for the good work. Okay, so, we'll move around the desk. Rich, you have anything?
Just one thing real quick. I know at one point we had talked about possibly moving the police department out from underneath the city administrator. I didn't know if we were any further on getting a work session together or something so we could talk about that. I know it's been a while since we originally brought that up.
Okay, well, I've got a couple of subject matter experts that I'm sure I could be convinced to come and give us some guidance on that. I was actually unclear as to whether or not we had a consensus at council to do that.
We had a consensus. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep, just to look at it, to discuss.
Explore the options.
Right. Okay.
Yep.
All right, well, I will I will provide the information for the subject matter experts, because I reached out to some people, but I've got some names that people would be familiar with, that, I'll provide that to, Cheryl to see if we can get that arranged.
Awesome. That's it for me.
That's it for you. Lee?
Would like to announce that the Streets, Sidewalks, and Stormwater Advisory Committee will be held Thursday, September 8th, at 7 p.m. right here. Unfortunately, I won't be here, though, so. That's all.
Okay. Christie Harrison.
Two quick things.
Councilman Sussman?
Speaking of your committee, you have a new member. I just wanted to formally,
Yes.
say, Scott David, he was in the consent agenda.
I was going to mention that.
Yeah, well, there we go.
Beat me to it.
Welcome, Scott.
Mm-hmm.
And then also, we did have a question about the bills for the airport. I was just wondering,
I sent an email to Amy Foster and asked her to provide the answer to Jeannie as well, so we can report back. Oh, you can't hear me, I'm sorry.
They can't hear you.
just want to get you involved with this meeting.
During the conversation, I sent an email to, Customer Service Manager Foster and asked her to provide a response to me and Jeannie in the email about what's the process? When does the bill go out and when's it due?
Okay.
Because I cannot answer that intelligently without guessing. I suspect it's more than a week, but I will not stand on that.
So you'll have a report for us then?
Somebody will, I will be on vacation.
Okay.
But we will get you a response.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. That's all I had.
Have fun in Minnesota.
Thank you.
Steve?
Minnesota for leaves changing, awesome.
Right.
Okay, a couple of things real quick. Day 3, I know that we've been getting some, but for folks on the dais, what's the latest on that?
Larry?
Hi. We have made contact with the Day 3 people directly. Mr. Fitz, who has been the spokesman for them, gave me the names, 3 names of the individuals to contact. We sent that email out last week. I sent a reminder out yesterday. I have still not heard back from them to meet with the roads so that we could take that information and then move forward to the next meeting. But, so we're still waiting for a date from them. We do have some temporary dates penciled in the next couple of weeks for a larger meeting, but we need to have the road meeting first, and so we're still waiting to hear back from them.
So this, for the purposes of this group, the roads is basically all the infrastructure, both on-site and off-site around the parcel that would have to be improved? Is that correct?
For the roads, yes.
Yes.
We-
So 175th, Clare Road, and I'm assuming some sort of spur road.
Internal road of some type,
Yep.
yes.
Okay. All right, that's good.
Well, and I believe there has been, there'd been some items that we had been waiting on that we have received.
That's great. I was concerned about that.
All right.
So,
Anything else, Steve?
no, that's it. That's all I had.
All right.
I
No,
want to,
it's
piggyback off of that. Is there any way, Cheryl, that, I don't care if it's in the weekly report or in an email, that we get a timeline perhaps of what's been going on with that
Yeah.
property? Because I think there's some misinformation being shared, so
I
I would
agree.
love to have documented timeline of discussions and what's happened. We haven't about it. Thank you.
Anybody else? All right. Welcome Scott Dyvan, the Street Sidewalks and Stormwater Advisory Committee. I did want to mention the Senior Citizen Center. You all probably received an email, but we can let hopefully the thousands of people watching on YouTube know that it should be reopening. We've got a date scheduled for a event and a ribbon cutting and a lunch. That date's October 18th. I believe it's going to be the noon hour, and everyone's invited to attend. Council members, members of the public, we very much look forward to seeing the Senior Citizen Center reopen. One other thing, it was suggested to me by someone that perhaps we should consider going forward, a new name for the Senior Citizen Center, since it's not just the senior citizens that utilize it. I don't think that it's anything that we have to get resolved before the October 18th ribbon cutting, but perhaps it could be something that we could involve the public with, as far as, getting a little community input, and how does council feel about possibly getting Danica and some other city staff involved, Parks and Rec staff, to maybe think about a new name for the Senior Citizen Center, and also wait for the shot across the bow from the senior citizen community that might hate the idea right out of the gate. I mean, that...
Well, we want to make
there
it
could
all
be that.
inclusive for all age groups, don't we?
Yes, well, it is something
Right.
that everybody uses.
Right.
There's, so,
Uh-oh.
are
Steve's
we
got a
all...
name already?
Steve's,
I already got a member.
Steve's an idea guy, he's always, that's...
What is it, Steve?
Not very creative.
Not very creative.
Right.
Community Resource Center.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Boring.
it's boring, but it's factual.
I thought it was going to be something flashy and cool, and you just drop it.
You know what?
But it's called the Big G.
Yeah,
I think Howard G. Warehouse.
Big
That's what it
G.
is.
Yeah. So,
We just dropped the citizens out of it.
so, I'm gonna say,
Senior Center.
Cheryl, Scott, Danica, let's get the ball rolling on thinking about a new name for the Senior Citizen Center, and,
New task for the marketing committee that we had.
I don't think either of them have the same kind of availability that they had even just a year ago, but,
Yeah.
but we could try.
We could sell naming rights and raise money.
Ooh,
I like that idea.
I love this man right here. This is good.
Winters,
Chiropractic Center.
Oh.
But then it would sound, but
What's the opening bid?
$1.
Yeah, it is. Well,
Trade Net Senior Arena.
yeah.
Gotta leave the senior.
There you go. All right, I think that's enough. Before we get too silly, I'd entertain a motion to
So moved.
adjourn.
second.
Motion Moore, second Harrison, that we adjourn. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye, aye, aye.
Any abstention? We are adjourned.
Here's what I'll do. I will think about it on my own, and I'll ask the citizens for input.
Okay.
Because that way...
subject.
All your airport people said.
I'm gonna help as much as I can.
That's a shock.
Yeah.